Hey, Talia here, and today on I Got Back Up, I'm joined by Tim Chase. Tim is the CEO and founder of Striver, the world's first abuse free social media platform created by footballers for fans. And today on the show, Tim opens up about his mental health and milestones that changed him as a person. One, a harrowing event whereby he was next to someone who got stabbed in the neck, with Tim putting his fingers into his neck to try to save him. Tim also opens up about hitting rock bottom, living with ADHD, becoming a father for the first time, and the feeling of not wanting to burden anyone as a man with what's going on inside your mind. So, when you hear the phrase, I got back up, how does that make you think and feel?
um, Mixture of pride, um, and it makes me want to bring that. I've got three kids, and it makes me want to bring that on to my children. So kind of, I guess it's hard being a parent because you want to don't want them to go through hurt and pain and seem like my oldest is 11. He hasn't got a girlfriend yet, but it's that when you first get your heart broken for the first time and how horrible it is. It's kind of, I had a great phrase at the weekend. It was, you can, as a parent, you can coach, but you can never play the game. And that really hit me a lot, saying that you can't go in and actually defending with his girlfriend, saying he's a great kid, you shouldn't break up with him. You can coach him up before and after the event. You can't play the game from there. Have to play the game themselves, and that really resonated with me.
I think actually, in a way, that's not just for parents. That can be for anyone, like a friend, a family member, a sibling. Literally anyone in any sort of relationship. Obviously, it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. You're so right. You can't play said game for somebody else. You can only advise them and coach them and tell them, but can't. You can't do it for them. And that's
Mm.
like something I've learned, and I'm sure everyone slowly learns, is that people don't tend to do things when they're told.
Yeah,
They have to do they have to do it, anyone, they have to do it when they're ready to do it. Anything in life. You tell someone to, sometimes even like small home tasks like, clean the dishes. They're going to be like, hey, whoa, 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 wait. Don't
yeah,
tell me to clean the dishes. I'll clean the dishes, you know, out of when I want to, when I'm ready to, and I know that's a really random example, but it's an example of people do things on their own accord when they're ready to, whenever they want to do said thing. So it's a really interesting way of putting it, actually.
yeah. And it takes on to another turn, like you say. I hadn't thought about it in the way you just mentioned it, but I think um, it goes into the same line. So we had a big group of friends. We're dealing with a good friend of ours who was basically pretty much homeless because he was an alcoholic, and he had a great career. He had a quite bad accident where he smashed his head in and had to have brain surgery and things. And I think the reaction of the brain injury kind of contributed to alcoholism. And we all kind of found him. We found him, he was in a mix between London and Brighton as a homeless guy, and he was unrecognisable within 12 months when we managed to find him. And we just kind of gave him a home. We got him right again, but then he would relapse and relapse. And while this was about 2 years before that, we had two of his close friends trying to get him through, and they're like, "Look, given half the chance, he would take you down with him." But then they were both at the stage where, look, if you guys want to pick up and help, please do. But he's got to want to help himself first, and that goes into what we were saying, that you can't play the game. You've got, if they've made the same mistake over and over and over and over again, how long they've got to want to help themselves in that situation. If they're an alcoholic or drug addict or whatever, they've got to want to help themselves. You can't play the game for them.
hmm And in a way, it's just exactly the same as when you say to somebody about therapy. You can tell someone that clearly might need to go to therapy. You could say, have you thought about therapy? Even you hint it to them, and they will react if they're not ready. They will react in ways that make you sit back and think, "Whoa, they really need to go." But they'll react in ways because they're not ready to accept they need the help. They're
Mm.
not ready to accept whatever's going on, because I think that's the thing is once you accept it, that's actually the first step and the hardest step, because you're then accepting, hey, I've got a problem.
Yeah.
And I think as human beings, we don't like to think we've got problems. Like none of us do. So,
No, I think especially as blokes as well, we don't like to. I think often we feel like we don't. No one really cares, and we're kind of in it on our own, and we don't want to burden other people with it. This is my cross to bear, kind of thing. And if I can't do it, what's wrong with me, kind of thing. I think that's the male attitude, is that no one really cares about it. which is totally untrue. And I've gone through several, but I had to not hit rock bottom in terms of being an alcoholic or a drug addict or anything, but feeling horrific about myself as a person. And I just went, do you know what? I was fortunate that with what I do, I have connections to a really good therapist where I go, and I just sent him a message saying, "Hey, mate, you fancy a chat?" And he thought it was about work. I was like, "No, man, I need to come and see you." I was like, "Oh, absolutely, come see you in half an hour," kind of thing. And that gave me some really interesting tools to deal with stuff. And and I think that's it. It's not that yes, you can be struggling, but that's not a problem of your own. You know, if you wanted to do a marathon, you wouldn't expect to just go out and go, right, do 26 miles a day. You'd expect to have some sort of advice somewhere on the line, whether it's YouTube or a nutritionist or a personal trainer or someone who's even been through running a marathon. You'd expect there to be some knowledge transfer, and it's the same as if you're in a bad situation. Yes, you can get out of it your own way sometimes, but I think it's having things in place to go, right. Like we said before, I've just been on a bike ride because I'm having a tough couple of weeks. It's just one of those, it's just going through a period where you just got to put your big boy pants on and kind of get through it. There's no way around it. There's no way of hiding from it. You've just got to get through it. And I know in a week's time or 10 days' time, life will be back to normal, but it is just a tough period I'm going through. But that doesn't mean that I can't feel stressed or I can't feel anything else. I've just got to have my things in place to get me through it. So I keep calm.
100%. And two really important points from that is that it's okay to feel the stress and it's okay to feel the, in inverted commas, negative emotions, because we're human beings and we have to feel them. No one can feel happy 100% of the time, but also in a way that you have to go through things. You can't go around them, you can't go over them, you can't go under them. You have to go through things. And again, it's the hardest thing to go through them. And what I want to do now is, from everything you just started to kind of touch upon, I want you to now take everyone listening kind of somewhere back into your story where you think most resonates with just everything that's happened and then the person that you are sitting here today.
Wow, there's quite a few kind of, I guess, milestones that have kind of happened that I definitely consider as like a milestone that has changed me as a human, me as a person, for the better. I would say I've come out learning from them. Maybe not to do that again, but certainly learning through it. And I think the first one that impacts on me was I used to be a tech headhunter, and I went to a BlackBerry only event. And basically, long story short, I was standing next to a guy who got stabbed in the neck, and I had to put my fingers in his neck to try and stem the blood. And this is all through the courts, all through the papers and everything like that. And that was quite a harrowing kind of experience, as you can imagine, putting your fingers in a stranger's throat and his fingers in his jugular to try and stop him dying. Unfortunately, did 3 or 4 days later, which is I'm still struggling to deal with quite like now. I still haven't fully overcome it, and that was 15 years ago. So that was the first thing that happened in my life. That kind of had to get through it. The next one was becoming a parent for the first time. That suddenly makes you realise that actually having nice cars and nice watches and holidays and that sort of stuff, these little kids don't care about that. They just want to be with you. Do you know what I mean? If you ask any of my kids, what, not the 2-year-old, but the 5 and the 11-year-old, if you what's the best memory? It wouldn't be going on these amazing dinners or anything like that. It would actually probably be sitting down when we made a puzzle together, or when we went on that amazing walk. It would be little things like that. And I realised quite early on that being present is more important than spending money on stuff. So I think that was a really important time for me. Then the next one was the custody battle I had for my oldest son. That was possibly the most traumatic experience of my life. Threatening the possibility of losing my child, and eventually not. Trying to be a bit diplomatic here. So basically winning that custody battle, and then finding Eleanor, my other half, and that was having someone that actually makes you validate and goes, actually, you are worthy of love. That's been a huge important thing for me. And then the career I run now, so I run a startup, which is hugely rewarding in terms of the people I work with and the difference I'm trying to make in the world. So yeah, there's been a few every day. I think there's a sort of a certain little fork in the road almost. You go, I can go this way or that way, and you go, do you know what? At the moment, I think the right decision now is to do this. But in hindsight, you may look back and go different. But I think it's important. I don't really worry about making mistakes. I'd rather make loads of them than none of them. And that's because at the time, looking back in hindsight, you might go, do you know what? We should have done it like that. But at that time, that was the right thing to do. Like and you could use that to being in relationships. You know, at the time, that's what I wanted. Like with my older son's mum, at the time, that's what I wanted. Turns out it wasn't in the long run, but at the time, it's what I wanted. So I think I use that as a way, I guess, of kind of forgiving myself if I do make a mistake, saying, actually, at the time, it was the right decision. Time progressed, and it wasn't right. But at that time, that's exactly what I wanted, or exactly what needed to happen.
Yeah, and that's the thing is it's trying not to regret what you've done because like you just said at the time in your life that is what you wanted. And also sometimes it's people that when they look back and they're not really sure, not that it's a mistake, but they wish they might have acted differently or said something differently or because that's what they know now. But back then, you didn't have the tools to speak, say, act in whatever way that you would now. And that's again another thing that I think that lots of people beat themselves up about is they might look back at things that happened decades ago and been like, I wish I'd just said that one thing to that person instead of this, or I wish I hadn't, but at the time, like you were saying, A, that's what you wanted, or B, that's all you knew what to do because, you didn't just come out the womb equipped with everything as you've gone on in your life. That's what learning and evolving and changing is, and every level that you move through in life, because, you have to do that in life and you have to shift and you have to evolve, but you have to be kind to yourself and you have to look back and you have to think, A, that's what I wanted, or B, that's all I knew at the time, and that's okay. I'm gonna forgive myself and be kind to myself.
Yeah, exactly that. You just got to be, and that's the biggest thing. I think if our best friend was struggling through something, and you said, look, you haven't had a day off, you've worked 24/7 for the last 6 weeks. No wonder you're tired. Nothing. The world isn't going to end. Your business isn't going to die in the next 24 hours. Turn your phone off, go to bed. Don't talk to anyone. That's what we would tell somebody else. But obviously, we and I are self-employed or run our own businesses. That's never going to happen, right? It's never going to happen. I had pneumonia, and I only took 4 days off, 3.5 days off, because I couldn't not do it. But if we spoke to ourselves, the way we speak to our best friends, I think we'll be a lot nicer to ourselves. And that's what that tool that I use of at the time, it was the right decision. It gets you past so many, not mistakes, but so many times when you have a bit of regret and you go, at the time, with the information I had, that was the right thing to do.
Mm.
It turns out that the information I was given was incorrect, or I've grown as a person, or the scenario's changed. At that time, you made the best decision you could. And I think that gets you past a lot of this sort of self-regret and kind of improves the way you talk to each other, talk to yourself, sorry.
I think in a way it's not even about, even if the information was incorrect, I genuinely think it's more I've just grown as a person. That's it. And I think that's how you can be even kinder to yourself because it's like I've just grown as a person. Like I said, you didn't come out the womb fully equipped with everything. And even things that happened maybe last month that you might wish you could change. In 1 month, you have grown as a person, even if you don't realize it.
Yeah. Yesterday, I woke up this morning again yesterday. Shit, I wish I'd done something that different. But you live and you learn, right? You can't go and change it. You can't go, do you know what? You just got to go, do you know what? Yeah, I say, give yourself a bit of a break. And that, I think using that tool at the time, it was the right decision to do, gives you so much more freedom to make mistakes, which is
Yeah.
what really grows, right?
And it's interesting because obviously the different things that you mentioned that have happened in your life, kind of these huge things that have happened, have been a mixture of, you know, things that were so out of your control, but you were literally doing all you could to, help someone survive.
Yep.
Something that wasn't even your fault. And then you've got things like, falling in love and meeting the right people for you. And it's a complete mixture of, in a way, it's a mixture of the balance of, in my opinion, life of, the light and the dark, and there's so many different things happen in life, and it's not all happiness, but it's not all darkness. There's a complete mixture, and each thing defines you in a different way. And sometimes we go through these dark moments because when these amazing light things happen, we recognize them more and we feel them more, and it's like, hey, wait a minute, like, this is amazing, because if we've been in that darker space, we appreciate the light even more.
Absolutely. Well, I travel loads through work. I've obviously a family that I love and adore. I want to spend as much time as I can with. And obviously life is running a startup is pretty flipping stressful. It's pretty relentless and pretty stressful. But it means that when I am with the kids, my phone gets thrown in a different room. I'm nowhere near the phone, and I'm present with them. And the happiest thing that's happened to me in the last 5 days is I think Saturday or Sunday evening was quite nice weather where I was in the UK. We just had dinner outside, us and the three kids sitting around having a dinner, and we played some sort of ridiculous game. And I think I threw one of the kids said they didn't want to eat something, so I just basically we got a river that's behind us, and I basically picked up the food they didn't want to throw in the river, which makes everyone laughed at. And that was I'm much more conscious now of recognizing the happy moments, and because you can't have be realistic and have a whole happy day. There's going to be something you have to deal with in that day, and you go, but it's not losing that, letting that one little bit of rubbish or stuff you had to deal with or something that's happened, that small 5 minutes ruining the rest of the day. Because I used to be quite guilty of that, going, "Oh, why is everybody at me? Why is everyone get me? Can't even give me a break?" Well, actually, I can give myself a break by not taking it, by dealing with that in a different kind of way. Yeah, just enjoying things. So, like this morning, I went for a bike ride. And I'm lucky enough to live in Sussex, and I went on a bike ride across a local river with all the downs and everything around. It was like it's chucking it down rain. I'm stink of cow mess because I've gone through some fields. I can kind of enjoy myself. I'm actually pretty happy now. I'm doing some exercise. I'm out in the fresh air. There's a lot of people in worse situations than me. So just yeah, it's a big kind of. You don't have to be in posh restaurants and driving Ferraris to be happy.
Yeah. And also you don't have to let one or two or even three things ruin the rest of your day, whatever time they happen. Like you said, you're not realistically going to have a happy day 100% 24 hours. Who knows? Some people might, but the odds are you probably won't. And if that one, like I said, two, three, however many things might start to happen in your day, that's happening right this minute and in this hour. That doesn't mean it has to continue through the rest of your day. It doesn't have to change your whole day. And you know what? Even if it does, the next day is a brand new day to start again.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I've got ADHD, so the moment I wake up, I think I'm useless, I'm pathetic. No one, I shouldn't be in business. My clients should never speak to me again. My children, well, I don't think my children hate me. I think I'm always quite good. I think my children quite like me. But all that really negative, and unless I do something to snap out of that, it can overwhelm me. And by lunchtime, I'm like, I'm just going back to bed. So I'm very conscious now that I need to do something, whether it's jumping in the cold tub that we go outside or going for a bike ride, or even just what I do in the morning if I can't get out, I just put some music on as loud as I possibly can and dance in the lounge with the kids. And that kind of, I guess, the dopamine, it switches my dopamine up. But it's that because of my ADHD, I can again get overwhelmed quite quickly, and it's actually going right. I don't need to do that quite now. It's kind of like a noting exercise that I've been taught or learned. But actually, going right, that's okay. That can be dealt with. No one's going to die. If that happens, nobody's going to die. It's more important to be present with your kids, or it's more important to do this. So actually, this noting thing and being more present, and like we say, you're not going to be happy all the whole time. It's unrealistic. You've got to go through the crap to enjoy the happiness. And the more crap you go through, the happier you'll probably enjoy the moments when they do happen, even if they are very, very small. Like sitting in the garden having dinner with my kids. It's such a small thing. I sat there going, "This is lovely. This is exactly what I want, what I need," kind of thing.
I think in a way that sometimes, I hate to say this, but the more things we go through, the stronger we get. One of my favorite phrases, and I've said it quite a few times on this podcast, is new level, new devil. Every time we level up, we're faced with a new devil, and we face the devil and we level up again because that's what we keep doing. As long as we're going through these things, we keep leveling up. And then I just want to touch on what you were just talking about with regards to the ADHD. And obviously, for people that don't maybe 100% know and might even think, hey, sometimes I wake up like that, obviously ADHD, not that it's misdiagnosed, but a lot of people aren't even diagnosed with it.
I diagnosed a year ago.
I know a lot of people that later on in life are being diagnosed with different things like this. So what is it then? Because you said the dopamine, what is it then that makes you wake up in the morning and the first things are the negative thoughts? What is that with regards to ADHD?
So I think it's the dopamine levels. My dopamine levels are really small, so I'm always really low. So I'm always looking for something really exciting to happen. I'm always looking for that exciting thing. So you'd think I was a adrenaline junkie or something like that. I'm absolutely not. I've got a bad back, so I can't even go on like a little kids thing at the circus at the what do you call it? At the circus, we call it circus. So it's a real deficiency in dopamine. But there's a few other things, but I totally regard it as a superpower. So I regularly have meetings with people that are far smarter than me, and they've been trying to fix a problem, let's say in tech, and I'm not a technical person. We've been trying to fix this for about 6 weeks, and I'm quite good. My ADHD means I can really narrow down what the problem is. So rather than going through like 5 or 6 layers, again, well, that's not the problem. Let's go deeper. Let's go deeper. So I'm very good at simplifying what the problem is, and once I simplify it, then I understand it.
Mhm.
I go, and I'm also very good at connecting dots and going, coming up with solutions quite quickly. So I go, well, have you tried just doing this? And they go, no. I'm like, they come back and they go, right, and we plan, it happens regularly where we plan like a 2-hour meeting and then within 15 minutes between us, we've managed to solve the problems. And I'm also capable of doing lots of different things at once. So I regard it, my ADHD, as an absolute superpower without any question of it, but it has to be managed. And I don't think anyone else would want to live a life like this. It is pretty intense, and I struggle to sleep. I struggle to turn my brain off. I don't think you've asked that. I'm not that much fun to live with because I'm rarely sitting around doing nothing. Um, I'd say I regard it as an absolute superpower, but it has negatives. And I think if I'd been diagnosed with it when I was younger, my life would be a lot different. So if you gave me a book, try and find a book. There you go. There's one here. It would take, so that's pages of the book normally. It would take me 6 times to read that book. That page would take me 10 to 15 minutes to read, because halfway through it, my brain would be focusing on another task that I haven't done. It's just my lack of ability to focus on that is quite demoralizing. As a 43-year-old man, I should be able to read a page of a book within like 30 seconds or a minute. So if I allow something like that, it can really diminish my mental health and go, you're useless, you're pathetic, you can't even read a page without forgetting it. So you need to work out strategies to go, okay, I can't go through life without reading. Let's do this. Let's do one page at a time, then have a chocolate. Do you know what I mean? There needs to be some sort of reward to go through this. But so it's, and if I'm not interested in something, I could not give less of a shit about it. And like if Eleanor's telling me what the plans are for the weekend, I'm like not even listening even a little bit. And I don't even know why she bothers telling me. But if it's something that I am interested in, you could set up a firework next to me and I wouldn't be distracted from it. It's that's the kind of difference. If I don't care about something, it's really like if someone's talking to me about something but I'm not interested in, it almost feels like they're physically assaulting me. That's how much it feels. It physically feels pain. I feel physical pain for someone who's like telling me something that's. I mean, obviously there's exceptions to it. If my kids are telling me about their day at school, which isn't the most exciting thing in the world, and it takes lots of twists and turns, I stay present because it's relevant. But if it's something that's going on, and if I meet someone new and I talk to them a little bit, but there are certain moments when I go, mate, we've got to move on from this. For the love of God, I physically feel as if I've been attacked. So it's learning strategies to come over things like that, because obviously in a job where I meet lots of people, I can't be a moody arsehole the whole time.
So how do you do that then? How do you, or what strategies have you started to use then for the times when it's you are talking to someone and you zone out, or you're reading your book and you zone out? What are the kind of strategies that you're doing? Because I think the thing is it's not that is it that you're not that you're forgetting, you're not taking it in because it's not interesting enough, correct?
Well, no, because that's not true. Because I'm reading something here called the Investable Entrepreneur, and I'm going through an investment round, and I'm an entrepreneur, so it's pretty relevant for what's going on in my life right now. But
So,
even
so what is that then? What is it then if you can't, if it is interesting, then what is it then that you can't get through the whole page?
I would literally start reading it, and my brain will go off somewhere else. I'm just looking at the words, and I go to the bottom of the page and go, I've got no idea what I've just read. I've got literally no idea what I've just read. So I go back and start again, and the same thing happens, and over and over and over again. And if you imagine that gets, for someone who has a low boredom threshold, it's really frustrating. So it sort of capitulates. So I don't think anyone really knows what it is. I think it's just an efficiency in something, but I can't. It's just and I kind of, because of ADHD, you like to be able to predict stuff. So you see patterns and stuff. So if you're reading a phrase and you've read the sentence before, you kind of predict it. And if it doesn't fall into how you predicted it, it completely throws you off. You go, oh, that's not the word I was expecting. So there's lots of little things that happen as you're reading that are a struggle. But as I say, so I have to find a way to overcome that. I can't go through life without reading. So I've got to find a way to deal with that. And there's various different ways. If it's like a contract, I had to kind of do bite-sized bit of it, because I really struggle to keep going with, if it's really, really long-winded and takes a high amount of focus. I can focus for a short period of time, but then I have to go, right, as soon as I feel, if it's a really important document like a contract, I'll go, right, I'd read that. And as soon as I feel myself sort of moving away from what I'm reading, then I'll go, right, I need a break now. Let's have a break. Even if it's been 30 seconds into it, I go, right, let's have a break. Let's have a cup of tea or a drink or do a bit of exercise. And I come back to it and actually go, because I've given myself a bit of air of flexibility, and a bit of self-care maybe, it does normally work.
Okay, no, that makes a lot of sense. And then you were saying before then, when things can get overwhelming, is that the same thing? And did you call it? Was it noting?
Yeah.
So what's noting? 'Cause I haven't heard of that before.
Okay. So my brain. So what's the best way to describe it? It's voices in my head, but it's not like that. I'm not a madman. But let's say I wake up in the morning and go, I need to go to the gym. I go to the gym. Right, I go to the gym at 9 o'clock. But I've got to drop the kids at school first. Okay, so now my brain's going, a monologue in my head going, I've got to take the kids to school first, or take the kids to school first, and then I go to the gym. Cool. And then Ella goes, actually, I need you to drop me somewhere. So I go, right, that's 4 things I'm thinking about now. And I go, oh, actually, I've got a meeting at 11, so I've got to be back in time, but that's 5 things. And all these are like 5 different people in my head going, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. So the more and more, by lunchtime, I've got maybe 20 things in my head that are bouncing around. So it's really hard to focus on anything. So what noting is understanding that you have maybe 5 things rattling around in your brain and going, right, first thing is, okay, this is a thought. It's not a is it a thought or a feeling? Okay,
Mhm.
am I feeling anxious? Am I feeling nervous? Am I feeling sick? Am I feeling happy? Is that what the overriding feeling is? Or is it a thought? Am I thinking about doing something? If it's a feeling, you then know to go, okay, I feel anxious. I'll deal with that in a minute. What's the word? Admit or acknowledge. I acknowledge that I feel anxious. So I'm feeling anxious, and we'll delve into that in a little bit. So it's we've noted, ticking the box, and it's been moved. But if it's a thinking thing, okay, why am I thinking about that? Okay, then if I'm say meditating, I go right. Okay, well, that's not relevant now. I'm meditating. This is me time. The world gets me in 10 minutes time. This is my time. Actually, if I calm down and rationalize my thoughts and everything, the world gets a better tip, whether that's my family or my colleagues or clients or whatever. So noting is understanding that you're going to have these things going through your day, but it's actually not letting those thoughts or feelings run away. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So have a look. It's really interesting. I've literally just done it. I use an app called Headspace,
Hmm.
and Headspace is really good to help when I do start getting that overwhelming thing. Because I have tendencies when I get overwhelmed, I run at 100 miles an hour, and it's kind of a bit of a whirlwind when I'm trying to fix everybody's tasks, and everyone goes, I don't know what he's asked me to do, and then I get frustrated because I haven't explained myself very well, and so it's just a disaster. So I've realised that actually running at 100 miles an hour all the time is, one, unsustainable, and two, unhelpful. So as soon as I start feeling that kind of overwhelming agitation, I need to get stuff done, I'll go and do 10, 15 minutes on Headspace, and I come back out going, right, let's organise these thoughts that are banging around in my head. Let's work out priority for them, and let's work our way through them, rather than just getting more and more and more. Because that's what my brain feels like. It feels like there's 20 people in my head shouting at me to do something, and I need to go, right, let's do it with you one at a time, because no one's going to get anything from me at the moment.
And it's interesting because what it can do with being overwhelmed is it can either you do everything at once and it gets too much, or it gets too much and you do nothing. That sometimes when you're overwhelmed, there is too much and you don't know which thought, thing, emotion, what task to start with because there's too much going on. So what do people do? They do nothing. And I know that then a lot of people can think they're lazy, or they're told they're lazy because it's like, well, why aren't you doing all of this thing that you need to be doing? But actually you're so overwhelmed,
Yeah,
you actually don't realize that the reason you're doing nothing is because you don't know what to start and you don't know where to go. And that's a really interesting way noting for someone as well that might get so overwhelmed that they do nothing, because it's like, okay, take 10 minutes away from this overwhelming feeling of what one do I do, where do I go, everything that's going on in my head, and start one by one, write them down, this feeling,
yeah,
that's a really interesting way of putting it. And then look at it and think, okay, what one are we going to start with first? We're going to go with that one first. But that's what it is in everything. It's chunking as well, like you were saying about the reading, and it's chunking. It's putting things in chunks, and whether that's a paragraph on a contract or a book, or if it's a list of tasks that you have to do. And sometimes some of the tasks are really big. Some people, myself included, when I need to write emails down, or sort of if I need to send someone an email, I'll write it in my list of things. Send
yeah,
some person an email.
yeah,
And it could be next to a really big task, which isn't just send an email. So the big task might have to be chunked into lots of little ones. And you have to break things down, especially those big ones. You have to break things down and actually it can help with the overwhelming sensations.
Absolutely. So there's two types. Well, it's not. There's lots of different types of ADHD, but the other type of ADHD, I don't have it. I'm the opposite. I make decisions really quickly, and I maybe because of the dopamine rush of completing a task means I don't procrastinate. But the absolute opposite end of ADHD is you procrastinate and you get stuck. And because you have so much things on to do, it's almost like a deer in the headlights. You go, I don't know what to do now. I don't know what to do next because it's the fear of making the wrong decision that actually gives you 10 more things to do.
Mhm.
So you absolutely procrastinate, you don't do anything, and people think you're lazy. You're absolutely right. But why? So that headspace, I'd say everyone have a look at that headspace if they're struggling, and have a look at this noting thing. So basically, you do like a 10-minute exercise, and the noting exercises, of course, I've been doing. When you lie down to try and do some meditation, and it's guided meditation, so it tells you what to do and breathing and things. But then obviously you're going, oh, cake, I like cake. There's a cat. I think I'm pretty sure I walked past a cat. And it's those scenarios we go, okay, you've thought, what is that? A cat, a thought, or a feeling? That's a thought because you walked past it. Okay, you've noted that. Okay, you've accepted that you thought about a cat and you put it to bed. But it's not about not having those thoughts. It's about accepting those thoughts and dealing with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when those thoughts happen, you don't go, "Oh my god, this is a horrible session. I'm useless." Going, "Okay, I thought about a cat. Fine, move on. We thought about it, we understood it. Now we can put it to bed and move on." So it's catching it rather than thinking about a cat for 10 minutes in your 10-minute meditation thing.
Yeah, it's instead of getting completely lost in the thought and then just overthinking the thought that then is nothing is happening. It's catching it. You're right. And there are plenty of times when I meditate as well, and I'm listening to different people, and they say things like, you can get lost in your own thoughts. You can be really zen, and then suddenly you think about a cat, or you think about anything, and that's it. You're in a
Yeah,
completely different storyline in your mind. And they always say when you're meditating, whoever I'm listening to, they say that's okay.
yeah,
That's okay. But you're right. If you can catch yourself in that thought, then that's already the first step, and you bring yourself back to the present and the feelings and the things that you really need to be kind of focusing on at the time.
yeah. I remember I'll tell you a funny story. So Eleanor, my other half, we both do bits of meditation stuff. She's a trained yoga teacher, so vastly more superior in this. And I think we might have been hungover before we had kids. And I said, you know, I'm feeling really rubbish. I think I'm going to do a headspace because I think we'd had about half an hour sleep or something. So I do my headspace, and I thought, actually, I was given a free code to use Calm, the app called Calm, and I was going through, and I go, do you know what? I'll do a Matthew McConaughey. I'm a fan of Matthew McConaughey. That's what it was. We got back late. That's what it was, and we couldn't fall asleep because there'd been stuff going on. And it was a sleep cast with Matthew McConaughey telling you a story. That's what it was. And I put it on, and honestly, he was putting on such a sexy voice that I started pissing myself laughing. It's hi, all right, all right, all right. It's Matthew McConaughey here, and Eleanor's lying next to me trying to sleep doing her meditation. And I'm pissing myself laughing. Going, I think I might have downloaded the wrong app. So yeah, he said, if anyone's listening, Matthew McConaughey and Calm can maybe help you sleep for different reasons.
I think I have tuned into that one before. I'm not sure if I finished it, but yeah, I know the exact sleep story that you're talking about.
Hi, it's Matthew McConaughey here. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
What's this? Not a lifestyle change.
That's the thing, you can't even focus on the story, you just focus on
Yeah.
his voice and then him.
I was spoken as a voice for different reasons. I was about to change the whole outlook on my life.
No, but yeah, they're all really interesting tools and techniques, and that's what I like to do on this show is to find different tools and techniques that people use in their everyday life to get through whatever it is that goes on in their mind, because everyone's minds are so different. However, we can all use the same and very similar tools and techniques to get us through our days.
Yeah, exactly. I think so, and I think getting through it is exactly right. Some days you just got to get through it, and like I said at the beginning, going through a tough, rough patch at the moment, you just got to get through it. You know, life's going to. I know life's going to be fantastic in a couple of weeks, but it's got to go through a bit of crap to get there. You know.
Mm. And then, can I touch upon what's happened with a few of your friends?
Mm.
So obviously, I want to hear it all in your own words, but kind of what has been going on.
Yeah. So the weekend I had my sixth friend commit suicide. So he was mid to late 40s, and he's the sixth friend, either from school friends or in the small village I live in that's taken their own life. All men, all family men. I think he had 4 kids. It's obviously just a kind of an epidemic about what's going on. It seems like these men are going through such awful things that they don't feel like they can share, or that no one don't burden anybody. or anything like that. So it's just you kind of feel how bad. Kind of you go through a bit of process because obviously now this has happened 6 times. You kind of go, you kind of the first thing I say is, oh, such and such. What, mate? What would you do this for? You know, it's just such. What's the word I'm looking for? Not frustration isn't the word, but just such immense sadness that you felt like this is the way to go. And you, rather than reaching out to somebody, you thought, rather than maybe losing a bit of pride or something, rather than going, I need a bit of help here. You thought that the final solution was the only solution you had. So it's that, and then it's like then you have a bit of sort of guilt as well of like, could I recognise anything? But I think one of my good friends, an old school friend of mine, is called Danny Gainsford, who does something called the Vikings locally where we are, and it's about getting blokes of our age who've probably used to play football at an OK standard, or used to be very physical. That now their kids are grown up. They're like, I'm out, I'm overweight, I'm really unfit, and I don't know where to start now. Getting a group of blokes and women now together to get them to talk about this sort of stuff. And once you kind of get those things down, the barriers down, you actually do talk about it. So he's doing something amazing about bringing people back into it and allowing people to talk about it and saying, look, it's okay. And I think that's the thing. Blokes just don't like being vulnerable.
There's two things I wanna talk about moving forward from this. One, focusing on, like you were saying, men and men's mental health and men being vulnerable, but how, because I know people that have lost people to suicide. How how have you as a friend kind of taken that on board? Because you said, there are times when you look back and you think, why couldn't you have reached out? And, I know some people think they wish that they could have helped more, or they could have seen the signs, or why didn't they see the signs? How have you taken that on board? Especially 6 times.
Yeah, I don't. I don't think you can take it on board. I don't think you can. I think you just have to kind of get up and get on with it. I think feeling the devastation that's left behind um, is possibly the hardest thing. Seeing the kids and the families and stuff, it's possibly the worst thing. But it's I had a friend who I've spoken to many friends about this. Unfortunately, my mum was a psychologist, so I'm quite well equipped when someone has these sort of conversations with me. And the one that kind of seems to resonate well with my friends that have been or are going through this sort of bit is, don't underestimate the impact you have on the world. Don't underestimate how people would be devastated if you weren't here, and what the world is a better place for being in it. Despite how you feel now, don't underestimate what joy you bring to the world right now, even in your current state. And that seems to resonate quite well with me.
You're so right. And I think that's, people can feel very lonely and very alone in this whole world, but you are someone's child at the end of the day. No matter how old you are
Yeah.
still someone's child. And especially if you do have, you know, both your parents or one parent alive, or even if you don't, like, you're still someone's child. You know, you might have siblings, you might not, you have friends or partners. You aren't ever really alone. And even if there is one person in this world, that, you're right. Never underestimate the impact you have on anyone and everyone, because you don't know what can happen to even one person if you weren't here anymore. And that
Yeah.
doesn't just impact you, it impacts every single person around you. You're so right. And I understand it's, what you're going through today, I understand can be the most excruciating, difficult, darkest, hardest moment ever in your entire life. And you might never, ever, ever see a way through it, but you aren't ever alone, and it's not as lonely as you might think it is. And we all go through those really alone moments and times, but there is always even one other person out there in this world, if not one, lots more than one, people that will be there for you and can help you and support you and don't want you to go.
It could be such a minor thing that you do. It could be that when you go to the gym, you say hello to the receptionist, or when you go to the pub, you say hi to the barmaid, or there's a bloke in the corner, you always give him a quick nod as you're going on the way to the toilet, or someone you share, you just happen to be on the train with at the same time on the way to work, someone on the bus with, or someone you sit to in your form class. That one bit of thing that you say to them could change the dynamic. You could be their one person. Do you know what I mean? You could be their one person. If all of a sudden you're not here, the impact you have on that one person's life is hugely profound.
I've never thought about it that way, and I absolutely love that. You're so right, because sometimes it's not even people you've spoken to, it's just complete strangers. You have no idea. You're right. who every morning looks forward to seeing you, hoping you get on the train in the morning? I'm sure we've all done it.
Yeah.
You all wait for that one person at the station or the bus or the gym, or you're so right. And if even if you've never spoken to them, and if suddenly that person's not there, it's like, hey, wait, where's that person that sometimes gives me that smile or you're so right. Where is that person?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I've got when I take my middle child to school, there's a kid who doesn't like to go to school, and we walk past his house on the way to school. So I always make sure that I always make sure I try to leave the house at the same time, because I know when he gets to the school gates, he struggles, and I've got a really lovely relationship with him. I always make sure I have a joke with him, like drag him through the school gates or something, or high five him whenever I see him. And his mum sort of loves the fact that I do this sort of thing, and it's that sort of thing that actually that small high five I give that kid, or that little joke I give that kid, sets them up for the rest of the day. And I'm not saying I'm some amazing child whisperer. That's one phrase, but do you know what I mean? But it's an example of actually something very little. A high five to someone can suddenly put a smile on their face. Go, do you know what? Actually, life's not as bad. No.
Yeah, yeah, you're so right. That's a really, really, really fascinating, nice way of putting it. It doesn't
Mm.
even have to be the people that are, yeah, right around you. It can literally be someone that, yeah, you high five sometimes.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've all been in a situation where we've been upset walking through the street, or crying walking through the street for whatever reason. You have an argument with your other half, or you've lost your job, or something like that. Sometimes just a smile from somebody else going, just a smile from somebody else, or some non-physical contact or something, just going, hey, or a smile as you're sitting on a bench upset. Sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah.
Sometimes the littlest gestures mean the most.
Yeah, 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 you are so right. Yeah. You really are. I like that a lot. You're right. And then, sorry, because I'm just thinking about it myself actually, and like moments when maybe if I'm a crier. I cry anywhere and everywhere. I don't mind.
You're getting really
Huh?
well. You're getting really well with Eleanor.
Like I'll cry everywhere and anywhere, honestly. I have like no shame in that respect.
Yeah.
But there have probably been times when I've cried at the gym. No, there are times I've made friends in the female changing rooms of the gym because I've gone in, and if I'm crying to myself or in a moment, and especially in in somewhere like the gym changing rooms can be quite a vulnerable place sometimes, like especially if you've just trained and you're feeling all your emotions and your endorphins, and if you aren't in a great place, you can break down. And there have been times when I've like literally made friends in the change rooms of the gym because if I've been crying to myself about something, and then another woman whom I've never spoken to before has come over and just said, "Are you okay? Like, do
Mhm.
you need a hug? Do you need some help?" That's it. Like, suddenly is my friend. Like, we've become friends because, yeah, she's come over to me and she's been the support to me
Mhm.
that if I hadn't have been vulnerable in that moment, she might not have come over and said, "Hey, are you okay?" But she did, and she
Yeah.
helped me. So that's a really, yeah, it's a really interesting way of putting it.
And also, that woman probably feels amazing because she feels like she's helped somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Two things, right?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Because she'll go away and she'll think, yeah, 100%. Because she has helped someone. And people don't realize that giving and helping is the most amazing feeling to do, especially if you don't realize you're doing it, or you haven't gone out of your way to do it. If it comes naturally, it's amazing.
Exactly. And then, so on that tone, when we're saying don't underestimate the impact you have on the world when you're having those negative suicidal thoughts, actually, sometimes doing something good for somebody else is enough to snap you out of it because you feel
Mm.
validated.
Yeah. No, 100%, 100%.
Yep.
And then before we wrap up, I just want to ask you then, what advice would you give to somebody who they're in that dark space, and I know we have touched upon it, but they're in that dark space and they're in the space where they don't see the light. They want to give up. They're ready, let's say, to go. What would you say? I know it's a big question, but what's kind of the first thing you would say? Because sometimes it is just the first thing, that first step, that little
Mm.
bit of advice. What would you do to give them that glimmer of hope to hopefully get through the next day or week?
Yep. I would say do some small stuff, get some wins under your belt. And like we said, talking about my ADHD, I need to get some wins early on to get the momentum for the rest of the day. So for some days, a win for me can be having a shower.
Mm.
And I go, well done, Tim. You got out of bed and had a shower today. Well done, mate. As ridiculous as that sounds, I do presentations in front of 70,000 people. But some days that feels that doing a shower is harder than doing 70,000. I would say put your trainers on and get outside. Get outside. get moving, get moving. You can't. One of the things I've learned with when your brain isn't in that sort of anxious or that sort of state, you can't outthink yourself for that situation. It's impossible. That's one of the things I've learned from my therapist. You can't outthink yourself from anxiety or from stress or from depression. You can't. Your brain is not in a position where it's dealing with rational thoughts. You need to exercise, get your body in a position where it's got rid of that nervous energy, if you like, getting that energy out of you, then your brain will fall in place. So your body will lead your mind, not the other way. You can't outthink yourself out of anxiety and depression.
Yeah. No, I like that a lot. You're right. Physically moving is so important. And it's just quickly, it's not silly that sometimes all you have to do is get in the shower, because sometimes all you can do is
Yeah,
just get out of bed that day. Even if you stay in your pajamas all day, all you can do is get out of bed that day and make a coffee. And if that's all you can do to get through the day, that is so okay because you've done it.
yeah. Class it as a win as well. Go, do you know what? I got that show another show today. Keep yourself wins. No matter when I'm having a day where I'm really struggling, I class everything as a win. Getting up, you made yourself a cup of tea, pat on the back to me. Well done, mate. It's as stupid as that. So by the time, say, 10 o'clock comes around, I've got 10 in quote wins under my belt, which could be taking the kids to school, having a shower, making the lunchbox, making a piece of toast, having a cup of tea. That's 5 wins in 10
Mhm,
minutes that I could do.
mhm.
It's oh well done. Oh well done.
The
Um,
small wins add up, just like the small steps add up. That's it.
well, the event puts momentum. So once you've
Mhm.
got the momentum going, then you can start doing the bigger tasks, and then slightly bigger tasks. So yeah,
Yeah.
get some momentum going.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. So is there anything else that you'd like to share today?
I think I've done my therapy session's over. I think.
Well, it's been a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much.
No, thanks, Talia.
Never underestimate the power of the present moment and what it can bring without all the other noise. And even in the present, it's okay to not feel happy all of the time. Life can be really heavy, but one difficult moment doesn't have to define the rest of your day. Something I've learned is that you don't need to fight your thoughts. Just don't let them control you. Just let them be without letting them take over. Because sometimes the greatest strength comes from laying down the sword and giving yourself permission to simply just be. And please remember, you are never, ever, ever alone in this journey that we call life. This crazy, wonderful, sometimes very, very messy journey we call life. So take it one moment at a time, one day at a time, and one step at a time, because that's a pretty good pace to go. So until next time, remember, you have the power inside you. We all do. You have the power to get back up.